Well, this wouldn't be much of a vlogging channel if I wasn't going to vlog to you about little tips and tricks and things that we see during sessions. I'm on a very rare session where I'm actually pole fishing. You can probably see the venue over my shoulder. This is Sherwood Forest fishery, beautiful place. I'm here shooting a series of videos that you'll all see. They're going to go on YouTube, but I'm actually catching now, doing something that I haven't done for a long time. Most of you know that I haven't really done much pole fishing over the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years even. I'm going to be doing more pole fishing this year, and that's what today is really about. But I'm catching fish now, doing a certain thing that I haven't really done since I was last really competing in about 2012 or wherever it was, when I was doing more and more pole fishing on commercials. I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm catching skimmers. I'm catching some, well, they're actually up to £2. I'm catching some decent roach and some big rudd as well. But I'll show you what I'm doing, because it will be of interest to some of you. Now, like I said, I've been filming a series of videos today. We're right at the end of the session now, but I've actually been building up a swim on a top kit +2 line, which is about 5 metres, just to my left. And what's been happening in the story so far is I've been catching skimmers on the bottom, been feeding micro pellets, casters, and a little bit of worm as well. And I've been catching on pieces of worm, but as the day has gone on, I've been feeding this 5 metre line. The fish have come right up. But what's happened is it's got to the state where I cannot fish on the deck anymore, and that's because there are so many fish up in the water. I'm getting line bites, and the fish, quite simply, they just don't want to be down there. They're not down there. So I've been catching shallow. I've caught lots of rudd, I've caught some roach, I've caught some perch as well, and then in between I've caught a few better fish, but I haven't been able to single out the better fish until now. What I've actually started doing is something that I've done quite a few times before on other commercials. Is when we're fishing for skimmers on the deck, on this kind of fishery, it's only about 4 feet deep here, so they see a lot of micro pellets and fish soft pellet over the top. That's what we do all year round. But obviously at this time of year, the skimmers just simply aren't down there. And what a lot of people forget is that, you know, those fish really kind of they're preferring the micro pellets. So when people go shallow, they automatically tend to change the bait that they're feeding as well. You know, they might switch to a caster shallow, or it might be maggot even, or it could even be a hard banded pellet, that sort of thing. But I'm sure a lot of you will agree that that's not really the ideal way of targeting these skimmers, because already you know if you're going to catch them on the bottom, you would use micro pellets, softened, dampened down micro pellets. So why not do that when you're fishing shallow? That is actually what I'm doing now. I'm loose feeding micro pellets, and I'm fishing over the top, very shallow. And now I'm no longer catching the little tiny roach, the little perch, the little rudd. I'm not catching those anymore. When I'm catching a fish now, it's a skimmer, and they've been running up to £2, and they're obviously homed in on those micro pellets that are falling through the water. So I'll just quickly talk you through the rig and show you how I'm catching them. The rig I'm using it's a shallow rig. You know, they tend to be very, very simple, and that's exactly what this is. All I've got is a dibber type float on, as you can see, just a nice durable dibber, nice bright red top. What I've actually got then, about 4 inch below that, I've got 4 easy shots. That's it, as a bulk, so I can slap that on the water, just like when you're slapping for carp and fishing pellet. And then I've got a hook length loop to loop to a size 16 carp bagger hook, obviously a barbless pattern, and I'm fishing with small pieces of worm, just about the size of a caster. Now I'm doing that because it's very durable. Obviously we know skimmers like worm. It's very durable in the sense that I can flick the rig over. If I miss a bite, it's still on, and I can catch multiple fish on that hook bait as well. So all I'm doing, I'm fishing 5 metres, which is nice and comfortable in these conditions to loose feed micro pellets. I'm only feeding about 6 to 10 each cast, because as when you're fishing shallow, you want to keep enough fish there, obviously, to keep them interested, but you don't want to overfeed them so that you're missing bites and that sort of thing, and bringing too many fish into the peg. You want to almost starve them onto the hook. And to be fair, when I'm catching a fish now, just about every single fish now is a skimmer up to £2, and I'm catching them that deep in 4 feet of water. So as you can see, that's only probably a foot deep, 30 centimetres. I'll show you how I'm putting the rig in, and hopefully we can catch some fish for you. It's a nice simple procedure, just as we shallow fishing. Just tend to just keep trickling micro pellets in. Obviously the limitations when you're fishing and feeding these is obviously how far out you can actually feed with them. In today's conditions it's ideal. So I've just fed now, so I'm just going to give it a few seconds, let those pellets fall through the water, and then I'm going to go in over the top and slap it in. I've got a nice short length of line, there we go. It's not a big fish, but it is a skimmer. I've got a nice short length of line between the elastic. I thought it was far up then, but it's not, it's just wrapped around it. I've got about 5 or 6 inch, there's about 5 or 6 inch worth of line between the float, just hooked underneath. Lovely little skimmer, but like I say, I've been catching them up to £2, but I'm not catching the rudd and the roach like I was doing, which, you know, is proving that by feeding these pellets you're automatically making it a lot more selective. I've only got a length of about, I don't know, 5 inch, 6 inch maybe between the Dacron connector and the float, so that you're really in touch with the fish. It's nice and simple, easy pick up. Keep loose feeding those pellets. See if I can catch a proper net fish for you. Flick the rig over, nice and neat. It's easy with 5 metres of pole anyway. Flick it over, and a lot of the fish have just been hooking themselves. The better fish anyway, because you've got such a short length of line between your Dacron connector and your float. It's almost like a bolt rig, and that's where they can hook themselves. There we go. It's just a lot more selective. It obviously shows that at that depth there are fish of different species, but it shows that by changing what you're feeding you can be selective. I'm sure those roach and rudd and little perch as well are still at that depth. They're just not on that feed area now, because, you know, they're not as bothered about the pellets as what skimmers are. All I'm doing is hooking a section of worm. I've got a few worms chopped up in the corner of a bait box just to make it nice and quick and easy. Just nip it with your nail. Just a nice little piece of worm like that. The one downside to what I'm doing, one thing I'm not doing quite right today, is my elastic is a little bit too strong. This elastic is, I've been doing something else with this elastic. Fishing for other fish in a different way. And because it's only a filming session, I've not changed it, but you need a softer elastic to do this. These fish are only running up to £2, so you could get away with an elastic that's probably about a 5 or a 6. Probably a 6 would be best, because that way when you're hooking them, they're not splashing around in your peg. You know, because it's a soft elastic, they can, you know, swim out of the peg, down and away, obviously with the softer elastic, and not cause as much disturbance. This elastic is a little bit too strong for this, so what's happening is when I'm hooking a fish, it's stirring all the surface up, and obviously causing a bit of disturbance, which can really affect how long it's going to be before you catch your next fish. I'm not unshipping the pole down when you're fishing a short line like this. Like the hooks come out, actually it's gone straight into my hand. There's no need to break the pole down when you're fishing like this, which makes it a lot quicker, more efficient, and it's more enjoyable as well. A better fish. Obviously with a softer elastic that fish would be down. It's not caused too much disturbance. Beautiful skimmers, look at them. Who would have thought you'd be catching them a foot deep? Gorgeous looking fish. Soon rack a weight up with those. Well, I thought you'd enjoy that little bit of an insight into, shallow fishing we're all familiar with. But, sometimes, especially this time of year when carp tend to be not feeding like they normally are, sometimes carp at this time of year are thinking about spawning, and that's when you come to commercials. People targeting carp are simply just not catching them because they're not feeding. There are obviously an abundance of other fish out there, and this kind of approach will land any carp that I hook, with a nice balanced setup. If I hook a carp, then I am going to land it, but it's also targeting all those other fish as well. I've probably had 50 or 60 pound of skimmers today through not being fishing mad, but just by ticking over nicely and following the fish up and down in the water and just trying to find out better ways of catching those fish that are not always on the bottom. Sometimes they're up in the water. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of an insight. Fishing shallow with micro pellets is not something a lot of people have heard about or even thought about doing, but certainly this time of year when you're targeting skimmers and bream, it can be almost unbeatable. Hope you've enjoyed this little bit of an insight. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget, hit subscribe. And if you want to see a lot of these videos in advance before they come onto YouTube and some more behind the scenes videos, then you might want to check out my other video channel. That's at the link just there. Thanks for watching.